I rode a lot of great and fun coasters, as well as some mid ones. In this video, I will be ranking the top 15 best ones I rode for the very first time this year. Before I dive into the list, be sure to like the video and subscribe with notifications on to be notified of more theme park related content like this. Starting off at the number 15 spot is Griffon at Busch Gardens Williamsburg in Williamsburg, Virginia. This is a fun dive coaster with a great first and second drop. I thought this was going to be my favorite dive coaster that I've ever ridden. However, some weird transitioning at the end of the ride made that not the case compared to Valravn and SKYRUSH, which is probably a really hot take of mine. I don't know, maybe I was expecting a little more from this coaster, especially since it has the extra inversion compared to SKYRUSH, it has that extra heightened speed, and it has classic over-the-shoulder restraints instead of vest restraints like Valravn. However, it is generally a smooth and thrilling coaster, and I'm glad that it, yet again, preserves its classic restraints. At the number 14 spot is Great Bear at HERSHEYPARK in Hershey, Pennsylvania. When I rode this coaster in July, it dethroned Raptor at Cedar Point as my favorite B&M invert. I think this coaster goes under the radar when compared to the rest of HERSHEYPARK's coaster collection. I rode near the back on this coaster and I found it to have amazing pacing. The pacing can be unexpected too, such as that helix before the first drop, which picks up a surprising amount of speed. It also was completely smooth with no rough spots, which was a bone I had to pick with Raptor and its transition into the final brake run. Anyway, this is a great coaster with great pacing and great thrills, and of course, it is Great Bear. At the number 13 spot is Superman Ride of Steel at Six Flags America in Bowie, Maryland. This Intamin hypercoaster definitely goes under the radar when compared to other hypercoasters. It's definitely the best coaster in its park, outshining a lot of pretty mid coasters. I found it to have a solid first drop, some good airtime moments, and even a good amount of intensity on the helices. There was a bit of a janky vibe on this coaster, particularly during some of the turns outside of the helices, but it seemed to kind of add to the thrill factor of this coaster during my rides on it. I found my rides near the back to be a little more janky, but they were also more thrilling, and I remember experiencing greater airtime near the back. This is an overlook coaster that honestly makes for an overlooked Six Flags park. At the number 12 spot is Icebreaker at SeaWorld Orlando in Orlando, Florida. This is a coaster that I waited a long time to open, but I got the chance to ride it for the first time back in February, and I've had several rides on it since then. This coaster is just plain fun, but its standout feature is airtime. There are a lot of great ejector moments on this coaster. Also, the back and forth launch system allows for some gut-dropping moments on that beyond vertical spike, which I also appreciate a lot on this coaster. However, I have a major complaint about this coaster, that of which being the restraints. I do not like the restraints on modern Premier Rides coasters. I don't have much of an issue with the comfort collars, but the lap bars will occasionally crush my thighs mid-ride by going down another click during the ride, which is quite painful on Premier trains. This aside, however, this coaster is just plain fun. At the number 11 spot is Fahrenheit at HERSHEYPARK in Hershey, Pennsylvania. This is a very unique roller coaster from Intamin. It has a vertical lift and a fun beyond vertical drop. The drop's 97-degree vertical angle makes it the steepest drop I've experienced on a coaster, excluding Icebreaker's 100-degree spike. I also found this coaster to have some very fun inversions and even some good airtime moments. This is a very interesting and fun coaster in HERSHEYPARK's lineup. At the number 10 spot is Apollo's Chariot at Busch Gardens Williamsburg in Williamsburg, Virginia. Honestly, I might need a redemption ride on this at some point. Don't get me wrong, it is at least a solid hyper, but I got just one ride in the middle of the train, and for a B&M hyper, the airtime was pretty weak, though that could have been also because of the harsh trims during my ride. Regardless, I rank this as high as I do on this countdown because it is at least a solid B&M hyper, and I also rank it as high as I do because of its potential as a ride. But for now, there are plenty I prefer to this one in particular. Taking a pretty big jump to the number 9 spot is Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind at Epcot in Lake Buena Vista, Florida. talk about a coaster that has really caught me by surprise. This is easily the best attraction that I have ridden at any of the American Disney parks. This ride is just amazing because of its exhilarating feel, its spinning, its thrill factor despite being a family coaster, its onboard audio, its immersive theming, and quite simply its fun factor. This is a coaster that just blew me away the very first time I rode it in June. Also, I want to point out that this is probably the smoothest roller coaster I've ever ridden, even if there is a recency bias. And it makes me very glad to see the potential the ride's manufacturer Vekoma has. I'm very glad to see that Epcot's first ever roller coaster is Disney's very best. At the number 8 spot is the Lightning side of Lightning Racer at HERSHEYPARK in Hershey, Pennsylvania. The only reason I choose this specific side is because, well, it's the only side I rode. Anyway, this coaster is definitely underappreciated compared to other coasters from Great Coasters International. Like their other coasters, this ride has a fun twister layout with some good airtime moments. Even if HERSHEYPARK's other GCI Woody has bit the dust, I'm glad to see this park still has 2 more to offer. Plus, Wildcat's gonna be an RMC, so this park's gonna have quite the stacked coaster collection. At the number 7 spot is Candemonium at HERSHEYPARK in Hershey, Pennsylvania. This is a fun and very smooth B&M hyper with some fun airtime moments. I rank it pretty high in my rankings because it is similar in its layout to Mako at SeaWorld Orlando, which is my current favorite B&M hyper. This is a great standout coaster at HERSHEYPARK and a cool sight to see at the front entrance. At the number 6 spot is Stormrunner at HERSHEYPARK in Hershey, Pennsylvania. Judging from the intimate accelerator coasters I've ridden, this one in Top Thrill Dragster, this is the most complete one ever built. It has a very thrilling hydraulic launch and top hat, and it offers some very fun inversions. It's still a pretty short ride, but again, it at least feels complete in a way. Kicking off the top 5 is SKYRUSH at HERSHEYPARK in Hershey, Pennsylvania. This polarizing coaster makes my top 10 overall, which says a lot about the coasters I've ridden this year, and it's easily the best roller coaster in its park. I got one ride on it in the back left wing seat, as recommended by Waldemir Enthusiast, and it was such a crazy and elite experience. The intensity was crazy, the pacing was crazy, and those ejector airtime moments literally made me feel like I was gonna fly right out of my seat, especially because of the way the wing seat was angled. This coaster did crush my thighs quite a bit, and it also had a very strong rattle, but I didn't find either of those issues to be too problematic, considering how much this crazy coaster makes up for it. I'm glad to see such a uniquely crazy coaster as the top dog at HERSHEYPARK, though I do wonder how it will compare to Wildcat's Revenge when it opens. At the number 4 spot is Intimidator 305 at King's Dominion in Doswell, Virginia. This is definitely the best Giga coaster I've ridden, and yes, that does include Fury 325. This coaster has some crazy intense moments, some really fun rapid fire transitions, and even some good airtime moments. Like SKYRUSH, it does have a strong rattle, but I rank this just above SKYRUSH mainly because of its lack of thigh crushing, but the two are honestly very close. This is yet another crazy fun and elite coaster from Intamin. At the number 3 spot is Pantheon at Busch Gardens Williamsburg in Williamsburg, Virginia. I consider this to be the best roller coaster in its park. This Intamin Blitz coaster is very reminiscent of Velocicoaster at Universal's Islands of Adventure, and it ranks very closely to it in my overall rankings. It has some fun launches, fun inversions with some hang time, a stomach dropping moment with that vertical spike, and some good airtime. It is also quite a smooth coaster without a strong rattle. All these factors make for the best coaster in a very enjoyable theme park. At the number 2 spot is Twisted Timbers at King's Dominion in Doswell, Virginia. This hybrid coaster from Rocky Mountain Construction really packs a punch for its size, mainly since it tends to stay pretty low to the ground. The ejector airtime moments on this coaster are great, such as the 3 back-to-back camelbacks. It maintains a lot of speed throughout the ride, unlike its predecessor Hurler. It also has some great inversions, such as its unique barrel roll drop and its low to the ground 0G roll. Overall, this is another great RMC creation, and it really shows the potential that Carowinds could take advantage of with their version of hurling. And finally, the best coaster I rode for the first time this year is Iron GWAZI at Busch Gardens Tampa Bay in Tampa, Florida. It's interesting to see how a credit I got as early in the year as March is the best one I rode this entire year. This is a coaster I longed for throughout a span of 2 years, but after extensive delays, I finally got to experience this elite RMC creation, and let me tell you, RMC delivered. This is a crazy elite coaster with some amazing pacing, amazing ejector airtime, amazing inversions, and some amazing standout elements just overall. The pacing is so amazing that this coaster goes from element to element in no time. From the first Outer Bank turn, to the death roll, to the wave turn, to the 0G stall, to the abundance of airtime hills, this coaster is simply an amazing coaster with one of the best coaster layouts ever conceived. But is it better than Velocicoaster? Yes, it is. Anyway, that's all of my top 15 roller coasters I rode for the first time this year. I am so glad that I have gotten the opportunity to ride so many fun and thrilling new coasters this year. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and turn on post notifications to be notified of more theme park related content like this. I'll see y'all in the next video, and I wish y'all a happy new year. Bye guys.